She betrayed everything I had, and everything she had, just drove off.
I'm the guy who fixes your Wi-Fi and gets cheated on by his wife's Fitbit. Tom Kessler, 39 years old and apparently dumber than a box of rocks when it comes to reading the signs. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started 3 months ago when Julia's brother-in-law moved in. Dwayne Harper, 29, unemployed, and sporting the kind of confidence that only comes from never having to pay your own bills. He claimed he was between opportunities, which is millennial speak for, I got fired for acting like a complete fool. It's just temporary, Julia said, standing in our kitchen with that fake smile she'd perfected during her HR director training. Tasha kicked him out, and he needs somewhere to crash while he gets back on his feet. I should have said no. Should have told her that our suburban duplex wasn't a halfway house for entitled man-children. Instead, I nodded like the good husband I thought I was, and helped carry his oversized gym bag to our spare room. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was believing Julia when she said she was just being supportive by helping Dwayne restart his personal training business. Suddenly, my wife was hitting the gym at 6 a.m., coming home sweaty and glowing, talking about core engagement and proper form with the enthusiasm of a cult member. You should try working out with Dwayne, she'd say, toweling off her hair in our bedroom. He's really good at motivation. The way she said motivation made my skin crawl, but I chalked it up to paranoia. After all, this was Julia, the woman who organized our sock drawer by color and sent thank you cards for thank you cards. She wasn't the cheating type, or so I thought. The first real crack in my delusion came on a Tuesday night. I was in the garage working on my '67 Mustang, the one thing in my life that still made sense, when I heard voices through the thin wall that separated our kitchen from the neighbor's yard. Tom doesn't suspect anything, does he? That was Megan, Julia's gossipy friend from work. Please, he's too busy playing with his car to notice what's happening under his own roof. Julia's laugh was sharp, unfamiliar. Besides, it's not like we're doing anything wrong, just exploring new possibilities. In the steam room at the gym, among other places. I dropped my wrench. It clattered against the concrete floor like a sharp crack, but they were too busy giggling to notice. Through the window, I watched my wife of 12 years high-five her friend like they were teenagers planning to toilet paper the principal's house. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Julia slept peacefully beside me, her phone charging on the nightstand. The screen lit up every few minutes with notifications, Instagram, Facebook, and something called Fit Connect that I'd never heard of. When her breathing settled into the deep rhythm of sleep, I carefully picked up her phone. No password. Another sign of her confidence in my stupidity. The Fit Connect app opened to a stream of messages between Julia and D. Harper Fitness. The most recent exchange made my stomach turn. D. Harper Fitness. Can't wait for tomorrow's private session. Julia. Same here. Tom will be at work until 6, so we'll have plenty of time to work on my flexibility. D. Harper Fitness. I've got some new positions I want to try with you. Julia. I'm always open to new experiences. I set the phone down with shaking hands. Not jealous, just disappointed. Like when McDonald's runs out of fries, except the fries were my marriage, and McDonald's was my own house. The next morning, Julia was all sunshine and coffee, chattering about her day while buttering toast like she hadn't been sending intimate messages to her brother-in-law 12 hours earlier. I've got that late workout session today, she said, not meeting my eyes. Probably won't be home until 8 or 9. With Dwayne? Of course with Dwayne. He's my trainer. She paused, studying my face. You're not getting weird about this, are you? Because jealousy is really unattractive, Tom. I wanted to laugh, or scream. Instead, I sipped my coffee and shrugged. Not jealous, just curious about these late-night workout sessions. Seems like unusual hours for a gym. It's a boutique place, very exclusive. You wouldn't understand. She was right about that last part. I didn't understand how my wife had turned into a lying stranger, or how I'd become the punchline in my own life story. After she left for work, I called my buddy Ray. He's been tending bar at Murphy's Pub for 15 years, which makes him an expert in human nature and bad decisions. You need receipts, not suspicions, he said after I explained the situation. Gut feelings don't hold up in divorce court. Who said anything about divorce? Tom, buddy, your wife is playing hide the sausage with her brother-in-law. What did you think was going to happen? Marriage counseling? He had a point. That evening, I decided to do some investigating. Julia had taken her car to her exclusive boutique gym, but she'd forgotten to clear the GPS history. According to the navigation system, her last destination wasn't a gym at all. It was the Riverside Inn, a pay-by-the-hour motel on the wrong side of town. I sat in my driveway, staring at the GPS screen, feeling like the biggest fool in Chicago. Then I opened our shared banking app and found the smoking tool, a $350 charge at the Riverside Inn, dated the same night Julia claimed to be working late on quarterly reports. Guess HR now stands for hot rooms. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity that surprised me. No more self-pity, no more denial. If Julia and Dwayne wanted to play games, I'd show them how a systems analyst approaches problem solving. Step 1. Gather data. I started with Dwayne's social media presence. The guy was a walking advertisement for narcissism, posting shirtless gym selfies with captions like, "Grinding never stops," and "Your only competition is who you were yesterday." His Instagram stories were a gold mine of information: workout locations, daily schedules, even the coffee shop where he spent his afternoons networking. Ray met me at Murphy's that evening to discuss strategy. The bar was nearly empty, just a couple of regulars nursing beers and watching a Cubs game on the ancient TV above the bar. "So what's the plan?" Ray asked, sliding a bourbon across the bar. "You gonna confront them? Hire a lawyer? Burn the house down?" "Something more elegant," I said. Dwayne's whole identity is built on his image. Personal trainer, fitness influencer, alpha male. What happens when that image gets destroyed? Depends how you destroy it. Publicly, thoroughly, and with maximum humiliation. Ray grinned. "Now you're talking my language." The next phase of my investigation required some field work. I started showing up at Dwayne's gym, not the fictional boutique place Julia mentioned, but the real one where he actually worked. Gold's Gym on Madison, a no-frills place that smelled like sweat and broken dreams. Phil, the manager, was a former cop with a kind of suspicious nature that comes from dealing with liars for 30 years. It didn't take much conversation to learn that he'd been keeping an eye on Dwayne. "Guy's a liability waiting to happen," Phil said, wiping down equipment with more force than necessary. "Shows up late, leaves early, spends more time on his phone than with clients. And don't get me started on his special training sessions in the back rooms." Special training sessions? Let's just say his form isn't the only thing he's been correcting. I started timing my visits to coincide with Julia's workouts. It was pathetically easy to spot them. They had all the subtlety of a car alarm. The lingering touches during form corrections. The way they'd disappear into the steam room together, the not-so-quiet conversations about meeting up later. On Thursday afternoon, I hit the jackpot. I was pretending to struggle with a lat pull-down machine when Dwayne started bragging to a group of meatheads near the free weights. "You guys don't understand the art of personal training," he was saying, loading plates onto a barbell. "It's about reading your client's needs. Some people need motivation, some need discipline, and some..." He glanced toward the women's locker room, where Julia had just disappeared. "Some need very personal attention." "What kind of personal attention?" one of the guys asked. "The kind that requires extra flexibility training, private sessions, one-on-one instruction, and proper mounting techniques." The group erupted in laughter. "Let's just say I've been helping a certain married client discover muscles she didn't know she had." I'd heard enough. As Dwayne moved to the bench press, I walked over and offered to spot him. He was so busy basking in his buddy's admiration that he didn't recognize me. "Thanks, man," he said, lying back on the bench. "I'm going for a personal record today." "I bet you are." He pressed the bar up, muscles straining. On his third rep, I let the bar slip just slightly in my grip. Not enough to hurt him, but enough to make him panic and drop the weight with a crash that echoed through the entire gym. Every head turned as Dwayne lay there, red-faced and sputtering. "Sorry," I said loudly. "Guess I'm not as experienced with handling other people's loads as some guys." The meatheads snickered. Dwayne glared at me, but there was nothing he could do without admitting he'd been showing off. I walked away feeling better than I had in months. That night, I made copies of every screenshot from Julia's phone, every GPS location, every suspicious charge on our credit cards. Then I did something that would have made my old IT security instructor proud. I created an anonymous email account and sent the juiciest screenshots. the ones with explicit details about positions and flexibility training, to an email address I'd found in Dwayne's gym bag. Tasha Harper, the wife who'd kicked him out, the nurse who worked double shifts to pay for his protein powder and designer workout clothes. If you're going to play dirty, bring a mop. The explosion came sooner than I expected. I was at the gym the next morning, legitimately working out this time, when Tasha's call came through Dwayne's Bluetooth speaker during the packed 7 a.m. class. Her voice boomed across the entire gym floor. "Dwayne Harper, care to explain these photos?" 30 people stopped mid-rep. The instructor froze with her arm raised in a warrior pose. Dwayne, who'd been demonstrating proper squat form to a group of housewives, went white as a protein shake. "Tasha, baby, I'm in class right now." "Oh, you're in class? Is that what you call screwing married women in steam rooms?" The housewives gasped. Someone's water bottle hit the floor. I continued my bicep curls, trying not to smile. "I can explain." "Explain this!" The sound of her phone buzzing came through the speaker. Quote, "Can't wait to work on your deep stretches tonight. I've got some new positions that'll make you sweat." End quote. "Ring any bells, you cheating piece of garbage?" Dwayne fumbled for his phone, but the damage was done. The entire gym had heard every word. He bolted from the class, leaving his gym bag behind, but Tasha wasn't finished. "And another thing," her voice followed him as he ran for the exit. "I found the motel receipts. The Riverside Inn? Seriously? I wouldn't take my dog to that play." The gym erupted in whispers and nervous laughter. Phil appeared from his office, shaking his head. "Well, that's one way to cancel a membership." I finished my workout and headed home, where Julia was getting ready for work. She seemed agitated, checking her phone every few seconds. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. "Dwayne's having some personal issues. His wife is being completely unreasonable about some misunderstanding." "What kind of misunderstanding?" "The kind that's none of your business, Tom." She snapped her phone case shut and grabbed her purse. "I might be late tonight. I need to help him sort this out." "How supportive of you." She paused at the door, studying my face. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, just admiring your dedication to family." After she left, I got a text from Ray. "Turn on Channel 7. Your boy made the news." I flipped on the TV to find a reporter standing outside Gold's gym. The headline read, "Fitness Instructor's Affair Exposed in Viral Social Media Meltdown." Apparently, someone had recorded Tasha's speakerphone tirade and posted it on TikTok. The video had already gotten 50,000 views and counting. The comments were brutal. "This is why I don't trust personal trainers. The secondhand embarrassment is real. Plot twist. His wife is a savage." By noon, Dwayne's Instagram account had disappeared. His Facebook page was flooded with laughing emojis. Gold's Gym posted a statement distancing themselves from the actions of a former employee. Phil had fired him before lunch. I was admiring my handiwork when Julia came home early, slamming the front door hard enough to rattle the windows. "This is insane," she said, pacing around our living room like a caged animal. Tasha completely lost her mind. She's destroyed Dwayne's entire career over some innocent text messages. Innocent? They were taken out of context. Dwayne was just being motivational. Is that what we're calling it? She stopped pacing and stared at me. "What is your problem lately? You've been acting weird for weeks." I could have ended it right there. Could have laid out everything I knew and watched her scramble for excuses. Instead, I decided to let her dig the hole deeper. "No problem. Just wondering why you're so invested in your trainer's marriage troubles." "Because he's family, Tom. And family supports each other. Even when family makes mistakes." Dwayne didn't make a mistake. He's the victim here. Tasha's always been jealous of his success, his clients, his whole lifestyle. She's using this as an excuse to destroy him. The conviction in her voice was almost impressive. She actually believed her own lies, or at least she'd convinced herself she did. That evening, while Julia was at emergency damage control dinner with Megan, I paid a visit to Dwayne's house. Tasha had apparently thrown him out again because his Jeep was parked in the driveway and the lights were off. Ray met me there with supplies: industrial strength glue, glitter, and a bag of dirty gym socks from Murphy's Lost and Found. "This feels juvenile," I said. squirting glue around the front door frame. The best revenge always does, Ray replied, stuffing socks into the Jeep's exhaust pipe. Besides, the guy's been acting like a teenager. Time he got treated like one. We worked quickly and quietly. Glue around the door and windows, glitter mixed with maple syrup under the windshield wipers. A protein powder container on the front step with cheater written in permanent marker. The pièce de resistance was Ray's idea, a sign in the front yard that read, "Congratulations on your viral fame," with a QR code that linked directly to the TikTok video. By morning, the video had hit 1 million views. Someone had turned it into a remix with auto-tuned vocals. A local radio station was playing clips during their morning comedy segment. And Dwayne was trapped in his own house, pounding on the glued-shut door while his neighbors filmed through their windows. I watched the chaos unfold from my car, parked a safe distance away. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a team sport, and Julia had just traded jerseys. Time to show her what happened to players who switched sides. Julia's workplace was a glass and steel monument to corporate mediocrity, the kind of building where dreams go to die in conference rooms. I'd been there exactly 3 times in 12 years of marriage, 2 Christmas parties and 1 bring your spouse to work day that Julia had reluctantly agreed to. But I knew the layout, and more importantly, I knew Julia's boss. Sandra Martinez was a no-nonsense woman who'd clawed her way up from receptionist to VP of Human Resources through sheer competence and an intolerance for workplace drama. She'd made it clear at both Christmas parties that she ran a tight ship and expected her employees to maintain professional standards, which made my next move almost too easy. I walked into the building at lunchtime, wearing my best suit and carrying a manila envelope marked "Lost and Found." The receptionist barely looked up as I approached her desk. "Hi, I think someone from HR dropped this in our parking garage," I said, placing the envelope on her desk. "Found it by the elevators. Looks important." She glanced at the envelope, which was addressed to HR department, confidential. Inside were printed copies of Julia and Dwayne's steamiest text exchanges, along with the motel receipts and a note. "Thought you should know what your employees are doing on company time. I'll make sure it gets to the right person," the receptionist said. I thanked her and left, knowing that the right person would be Sandra Martinez, and Sandra Martinez didn't tolerate employees who made the company look bad. 2 hours later, Julia called me, sobbing. "Tom, something terrible happened. Someone sent fake screenshots to my boss, completely fabricated messages between me and Dwayne. Sandra called me into her office and what? She's putting me on administrative leave, pending an investigation. She says I violated company policy about relationships with vendors." Vendors? Dwayne was technically contracted through our employee wellness program. Sandra says even if the messages are fake, the appearance of impropriety is enough to warrant disciplinary action. I made sympathetic noises while mentally calculating how much Julia's salary contributed to our household income. 60%. This was going to hurt her a lot more than it hurt me. "I'm sure it'll work out," I said. Truth has a way of coming to light. That evening, Julia was too distraught to go to her usual workout session. Instead, she sat on our couch, frantically texting and making phone calls. I caught fragments of conversation. Completely innocent relationship. When someone's trying to sabotage me, need to find out who did this. While she spiraled, I drove over to Dwayne's neighborhood. The glue had been cleaned off his door, but the damage to his reputation was permanent. A "For Rent" sign sat in his front yard, and his Jeep was nowhere to be seen. I found him at a 24-hour laundromat 3 blocks away, washing clothes and looking like he'd aged 10 years in a week. His Instagram perfect hair was greasy, his designer workout clothes replaced with a stained t-shirt and sweatpants. He looked up when I walked in, and recognition dawned slowly. "You," he said. "You're Julia's husband." "Tom Kessler. We haven't been properly introduced." He stood up, trying to reclaim some of his lost swagger. "Look, man, whatever Julia told you..." She didn't tell me anything. She didn't have to. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of his own Instagram story from the previous week. The one where he'd posted a video of himself and Julia working out together, her wedding ring clearly visible, as she did stretches that belonged in a different kind of video. "You posted this yourself," I said, along with about 50 other pieces of evidence. "Did you really think no one would notice?" His face went through several expressions: confusion, anger, fear, and finally resignation. "What do you want?" he asked. "Nothing. You've already given me everything I need." I left him there, surrounded by the smell of industrial detergent and broken dreams. On the drive home, I stopped at Murphy's to update Ray on the situation. "So the wife's suspended and the boyfriend's homeless," Ray said, polishing a glass. "What's next?" "The grand finale. But first, I need to deal with our mutual friends." The mutual friends were couples Julia and I had socialized with for years. People who'd been to our barbecues, our anniversary parties, our housewarming when we bought the duplex. People who were now choosing sides. Megan had apparently been busy spreading Julia's version of events, that I was a controlling, paranoid husband who'd sabotaged her career out of jealousy. That Dwayne was an innocent victim of a vindictive ex-wife. That Julia was considering leaving me for my emotional misuse. The story was gaining traction in our social circle. I could see it in the way people looked at me at the grocery store, the way conversations stopped when I walked into rooms, the way our neighbor Mrs. Patterson had started giving me the stink eye when I got my mail. Time to set the record straight. I called a meeting at Murphy's, neutral territory where Ray could serve as witness. I invited everyone, the Hendersons from next door, the Johnsons from Julia's book club, Mike and Carol from our bowling league, even Julia's sister Beth and her husband. "I know there are rumors going around," I started once everyone had settled into the back room with their drinks. "So I thought you should hear the truth from me." I laid it all out: the text messages, the motel receipts, the GPS evidence, the timeline of lies. I showed them screenshots, bank statements, even the video of Dwayne's public humiliation at the gym. The room was dead silent when I finished. Finally, Beth spoke up. "Tom, I had no idea. Julia said you were having a midlife crisis, that you were imagining things. The only thing I imagined was that my wife wouldn't screw her brother-in-law in a pay-by-the-hour motel." Mrs. Henderson, a 70-year-old retired teacher who'd always treated Julia like a daughter, looked like she'd swallowed something sour. "That poor girl Tasha, working all those hours while her husband was cheating on her with my wife," I finished. "Yeah, it's been a real team-building exercise." Mike from the bowling league shook his head. "Julia always seemed so together, professional." Apparently, her professionalism extends to areas I wasn't aware of. The meeting broke up with awkward handshakes and promises to stay in touch, but I could see the shift in their faces. The doubt had been replaced with disgust, and the disgust was directed at Julia, not me. When I got home, Julia was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, face flushed with anger. "I know what you did," she said. "Megan told me about your little presentation at the bar. How dare you air our private business to the entire neighborhood?" "Private business? You mean like the private business you've been conducting at the Riverside Inn?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. It's not what you think." "Then explain it to me. Explain the text messages. Explain the motel charges. Explain why your workout sessions always happen when I'm not home." For a moment, I thought that she might actually tell the truth. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then her face hardened. "I don't owe you any explanations. You can't trust your own wife. That says more about you than it does about me." "You're right," I said. "It says I married someone I didn't really know." She stormed out, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I heard her on the phone a few minutes later, voice muffled but clearly agitated. Probably calling Dwayne or Megan or whoever was still willing to listen to her version of reality. It didn't matter. Tomorrow was Saturday, and I had one final surprise planned. Something that would end this charade once and for all, in front of everyone who mattered. The last laugh was going to be mine. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes everything seem possible. I was up early, setting the stage for what I'd started thinking of as the reckoning. Julia was still asleep, or pretending to be, when I began moving my classic car parts from the garage to the driveway. The '67 Mustang had been my father's car, then mine. Every bolt, every piece of chrome, every drop of oil in that engine represented hours of work, memories of better times, and the kind of honest craftsmanship that seemed to be disappearing from the world. It also represented the one thing Julia had always resented about me: my refusal to sell it and use the money for practical home improvements. By 10 a.m., I had everything arranged: the car in the center of the driveway, tools spread out on a tarp, and a Bluetooth speaker playing classic rock just loud enough to attract attention. Mrs. Patterson was already peeking through her curtains, and I could see the Henderson kids watching from their front yard. Julia emerged around 11, coffee in hand, wearing the kind of casual outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly car payment. "What's all this?" she asked, gesturing at my automotive display. "Spring cleaning. Thought I'd work on the car outside today. Beautiful weather for it." She frowned. "Tom, we need to talk about yesterday. About the things you said to our friends." "What about them?" "You made me look like some kind of cheating wife." Her jaw tightened. "I never cheated on you. Whatever you think you saw, whatever twisted narrative you've created in your head, you're wrong." I straightened up from the engine compartment, wiping my hands on a rag. "Julia, I have screenshots of your text messages. I have motel receipts. I have video of you and Dwayne together. What exactly am I wrong about?" "The context, the interpretation. Dwayne was helping me plan a surprise for you. A fitness program, a way to get you more active. The messages were taken out of context, and the motel..." She paused, scrambling for an explanation. "We were scouting locations for a company retreat." Even for Julia, this was impressively creative fiction. A company retreat at a pay-by-the-hour motel? It was research. We were looking at all kinds of venues. I had to admire her commitment to the lie. Even with her career in ruins, her lover homeless, and her social circle turning against her, she was still doubling down. "Okay," I said. "Let's say I believe you. Let's say everything has an innocent explanation. What about this?" I pulled out my phone and played a video I'd recorded the previous week. Dwayne's voice came through the speaker, clear as day. "Let's just say I've been helping a certain married client discover muscles she didn't know she had." Julia went pale. "Where did you get that?" "Gold's Gym. He was bragging to his buddies about his special training sessions with married women." Very motivational. For the first time since this whole mess started, Julia looked genuinely shaken. The confident mask slipped, revealing something desperate underneath. "Tom, please, we can work this out. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever you want. But don't throw away 12 years over a mistake." "A mistake? Julia, you've been screwing your brother-in-law for months. You lied to me, to your boss, to our friends. You destroyed another woman's marriage and ruined your own career. That's not a mistake, that's a pattern." Neighbors were starting to emerge from their houses, drawn by the raised voices. Mrs. Patterson had abandoned all pretense and was openly watching from her front porch. The Hendersons were in their driveway, pretending to check their mail while obviously listening. Perfect. An audience for the finale. "You want to know the really sad part?" I continued, my voice carrying across the quiet suburban street. "You could have just asked for a divorce. Could have been honest about being unhappy, about wanting something different. Instead, you chose to humiliate both of us. I never meant for it to go this far, but it did go this far. And now everyone knows. Your boss knows. Your coworkers know. Our friends know. The entire internet knows. Thanks to Dwayne's viral meltdown." Julia looked around, suddenly aware of our growing audience. "Can we please discuss this inside?" "Why, embarrassed? Worried about what the neighbors might think?" Before she could answer, a familiar Jeep turned onto our street. Dwayne, apparently deciding that discretion was no longer necessary, pulled into our driveway behind my Mustang. He got out of the car looking like a man with nothing left to lose. His designer workout clothes were wrinkled, his perfect hair disheveled, his usual cocky swagger replaced with desperate determination. "Julia, baby, we need to talk," he called out, completely ignoring me and the growing crowd of neighbors. "Dwayne, not here," Julia hissed. "Not now. When then? You won't answer my calls? Tasha's filed for divorce and I'm living in my car. We need to figure this out." I stepped back and crossed my arms, enjoying the show. This was better than anything I could have planned. "There's nothing to figure out," Julia said, her voice shrill with panic. "We talked about this. It's over." "Over?" Dwayne's voice cracked. "After everything we've been through? After all the plans we made?" The neighbors were no longer pretending not to watch. Mrs. Patterson had actually brought out a lawn chair. The Henderson kids were recording on their phones. "What plans?" I asked conversationally. Dwayne turned to me, and for a moment I thought he might actually throw a punch. Instead, he laughed. A bitter, broken sound. "You really don't know, do you? She was going to leave you. We were going to start over together, maybe move to California, open a fitness studio. She said you were boring, that you cared more about this piece of junk car than you did about her. Julia made a strangled noise. Dwayne, shut up. Why? What's the point of protecting him now? He already knows about us. Everyone knows about us. He gestured wildly at the assembled neighbors. Might as well tell the whole truth. The truth, I said. By all means, let's hear it. Dwayne was on a roll now, months of frustration and humiliation pouring out in a toxic stream. She said you were a loser. Said you'd probably never even notice she was gone because you spent all your time in the garage. Said the only reason she married you was because you were safe and predictable. Each word hit like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. Around us, the crowd was growing. Even the mailman had stopped to watch. That's enough, Julia said, but her voice lacked conviction. No, it's not enough, Dwayne continued. I lost everything for you, my wife, my job, my reputation, and now you want to pretend it never happened? I never asked you to. You asked me to leave Tasha. You said we had a future together. I said a lot of things, Julia exploded. But that was before you got us caught. Before you ruined everything with your stupid bragging and your public meltdowns. The street fell silent, except for the distant sound of someone's lawnmower. Julia seemed to realize what she'd just admitted, her hand flying to her mouth. I looked around at our neighbors, people who'd known us for years, who'd attended our barbecues and borrowed our tools and helped us move furniture. Their faces showed a mixture of shock, disgust, and something that might have been pity. For me, not for Julia. Well, I said finally, I guess that settles the question of whether this was all a misunderstanding. Julia started crying, big, dramatic sobs that might have worked on me 6 months ago. Now they just sounded like noise. Tom, please, I'm sorry, I made a terrible mistake, but we can fix this. We can't fix anything, Julia. You broke the rules, you broke the trust, and now you're broke. I gestured toward the house. I've already talked to a lawyer. The divorce papers will be filed Monday morning. You've got 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live. You can't do this. It's my house, too. Actually, it's not. The deed is in my name, remember? You insisted on that for tax purposes. I smiled for the first time in months. Funny how these practical decisions come back to bite you. Dwayne stepped forward. You can't just throw her out. She's got rights. She's got the right to find her own place. Preferably with you, since you two have so many plans together. The crowd was starting to disperse, the show clearly over. Mrs. Patterson folded up her lawn chair with obvious disappointment. The Henderson kids were already uploading their videos to social media. Julia made one last desperate play. What about our friends, our family? Everyone's going to know the truth. That's the thing about being underestimated, Julia. People never see the knockout punch coming. I turned back to my car, dismissing them both. Behind me, I heard Julia's sobs turn to angry muttering. Then the sound of car doors slamming and engines starting. When I looked up from the engine compartment, they were gone. The street was quiet again, back to its normal Saturday afternoon peace. Ray showed up an hour later with a 6-pack of beer and a grin that could have lit up Wrigley Field. So, he said, popping open a bottle. How's it feel to get the last laugh? I looked at my house, really my house now, then at my car, then at the street where I'd just publicly ended my marriage in front of half the neighborhood. Like I finally fixed something that was broken beyond repair. That's the thing about being underestimated. You always get the last laugh.